Hi, I'm Cathy O'Brien, and I'm back sooner than I had expected with a solo chat. Welcome inside my head. I wasn't planning on dropping by again so soon, but honestly, I couldn't not say something. I'm upset, I'm worried, and I'm in total disbelief of what's happening right now, not just in the world, but specifically to us women. Every day there's another headline, there's another piece of legislation that chips away at our rights. And it's not random, it's deliberate. It's slow, it's strategic, like someone's pulling a thread on this whole sweater and it's unraveling every day. So we can't really sugarcoat it because it's kind of bad for us right now. I don't have the answers at all, but I do know this. We need a history refresher, all of us girls, we need a history refresher. We need to understand how we got here. We need to look at what's unfolding right now in real time. Then we need to talk. We need to talk with our friends. We need to talk in our own circles, in our own communities, and we need to figure out what we can do as individuals, but also together, because Women United, it's not like a vibe thing. We're seriously a force, and we have to remember we're a massive buying power. We are the massive buying power. So before we dive into what I'm going to talk about today, I just wanted to ground us with a few definitions, with two definitions actually: feminism and microfeminism. So feminism, all it means is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of equality of the sexes. Our rights, women's rights, just on the basis of equality of the sexes. And then microfeminism, it's small intentional acts that we can do in our everyday lives that push back on gender inequality and bias. So these are our anchors. Let's sit with them. Let's talk about them, and then let's act on them together. So let's get into it, Inside the Wellspace. So let's get into it. I am going to just reiterate a couple of words that are out there. And, often they're met with sort of like negative connotations just from the past. I wonder why. I just wanted to speak them out loud because they're really not negative at all. Just so we're clear. This is all about clarity today. Feminism and microfeminism. So feminism, the definition of feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of equality of the sexes. It's the belief in and advocacy for the social, political, and economic equality of all genders. There's nothing aggressive about that or offensive about that. It's just basic equality. That's all. Then microfeminism is small intentional actions taken in everyday life to challenge gender inequality and bias. And those are just things that, we can all do in our little moments throughout our day. There's a great Instagram post that goes on about that where somebody says, explain to me, tell us all about your little micro feminist moments. And they're hysterical and they're little and they're impactful. But what it does is it feels empowering. We're getting into the reasoning behind this. I want to just lay down some facts about us, about women, and what goes on for us right now. Population. In 2024, there were 173 million women, which is literally just shy of 50% of the population. Globally, it's exactly, about the same, just shy of 50%. So that's it. Globally, there are 4.058 billion women and 4.1 billion men. Money. In the US, women control or influence 85% of consumer spending, which is equal to $5 to $15 trillion. So, gals, that's what we control. That's the money we spend into the economy. 50% of college enrollees are women. 67% of bachelor degrees are women. Women hold more master's degrees, 14 million versus 10 million. Women earn 83 to 85% of what men do. It worsens with age as we get older, and it changes, of course, based on education level, gets lower. Mothers earn 62 to 74% of what fathers do. So there's that. In the workforce, women hold 55% of professional jobs, but earn 28% less on average than men in the same fields. In Fortune 500 companies, 55 women are CEOs, which equates to 11%. That was the middle of 2025. Same time frame, senior leadership is 29% women, board seats 33% women. In the financial sector, we are 16% leadership, 19% C-suite, and 15% CEOs. Senior management overall were 36%. As managers overall were 46%. That's not senior management. CFOs were 49%, so that's nice to see, getting there. Law firms were 38%. Financial execs, 19%. STEM professionals, 36%. Tech, 35%. Media execs, 27%. Pilots, 5%. And academia leadership, 30%. Just things to know. Politics. Congress in 2025. The Senate has 26 women, 16 Democratic, 10 Republican. It's a record high of 26% right now of the 100 seats in the Senate. Of the House, it's 125 women of the 435 seats. That equates to just over 28, shy of 29%, so 28.7%. 94 Democrats, 31 Republicans. State and local government in 2025, 32% of state legislative seats are ours, which is a record high. Local government, there's nothing because we're underrepresented in local government. Governors and statewide execs, in the peak period of time, there were 14. Consistently, there are about 12 women governors. In total, 51 women have ever served as a state governor. In total. Congress, right now, we are at historic heights for representation, but we're still under 30%. And we don't control any of it, literally nothing. State legislatures are seeing glacial progress. A third is impressive, but it's still totally misaligned with the population makeup. The governorships, while more women are breaking through statewide, 36 states have never elected a female governor. Ever. In the executive branches, the cabinet, statewide roles, women are still a distinct minority. That's where we are right now. And just sort of to pause and think about what moves things and make things happen for us women. It's law and it's money, right? I mean, that's where things will change for us and things are changing for us. Law. We don't have any kind of power to make changes there at all right now. Okay, let's go through some history. So just want to ground us and remind us all of the history of how we got to where we are today as women. So in 1920, 105 years ago, the 19th Amendment passed, which gave the women the right to vote. And that was after a 70-plus year battle. It didn't apply equally, though, just FYI. Many women of color were disenfranchised for decades. Bank accounts and mortgages. In the 1960s and 70s, technically women could open bank accounts, but not without the signature of their husband. So single women, forgot about it. Didn't happen. So in 1974, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act happened. That was just 51 years ago, by the way. 51 years ago, not a long time. So that was passed, and women finally had legal backing to apply for mortgages, bank loans, and other credit without a man's signature. 1974. And also, with that same ECOA, prior to that, a woman could not get a credit card or a loan without a husband or male cosigner. And the ECOA made it illegal to deny credit based on sex or marital status. So the single women now could get a credit card or rent an apartment or get a loan. Healthcare without a husband's consent. Let's look at that. In the 1970s, state laws varied, but it wasn't until then that married women were broadly able to access birth control and medical care without their husband's consent. That's the 1970s. So again, 50-ish years ago. In 1972, there was a Supreme Court case that granted unmarried women the legal right to use birth control. So before that, in between 70 and 72, when married women were allowed to access healthcare and birth control, single women could not. So thank you, Supreme Court, in 1972. In 1993, which is 32 years ago, marital rape was fully criminalized across the United States. And I talk about relationship abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, a lot. 1 in 4 women in an abusive relationship in their lifetime, 1 in 3 women sexually assaulted in their lifetime. And that's only what's reported, so it's a lot more. The fact that marital rape was not considered a crime is criminal. So 1993, thank you, that changed. And in 1993, FYI, before that, before 1993, the government did not require that women be included in clinical trials 32 years ago. We there was nothing on us. Nothing on us. I'm telling you, read that book, All in Her Head by Dr. Elizabeth Coleman. It will piss you right off. But it's so informative because it talks about the history of medicine, basically, for women and how we were not studied. So I suggest you read it if you want just a little fire. It'll help you. Actually, it'll just help you. Back to the subject at hand. Workplace rights. In 1963, something called the Equal Pay Act happened, and that was just 61 years ago. It made it illegal to pay women less than men for the same work. It's still widely violated, but it's just not technically legal because we know the stats about what women are paid compared to men. That's just a fact. In 1964, Title VII is the Civil Rights Act. That's 60 years ago. Banned employment discrimination based on sex. Before that, it was perfectly legal to fire or not hire a woman because she was a woman. And like, think about women of color too. Bad, awful, awful, underrepresented. I have worked my entire career in male dominated industries because they're kind of all male dominated. And and I've done well. I mean, absolutely have done well. However, I had to figure out how to navigate that. I had to navigate it. It was, I'm oftentimes, still now, oftentimes the only woman in the room of, you know, guys on everyone's man on the board. Leadership is male, and then there's me. It is constant to make sure my voice is equal and heard, and that I am, presenting what needs to be presented, and in my way. However, you got to figure out how to navigate it. And I will tell you the thing about being a woman in a male dominated workplace, what I have found is just consistently underestimated. Yes, underestimated, and it is infuriating. Just takes longer. Takes longer to prove it. Takes longer to prove it, and you just got to stick with it. It's a different way of doing it. Anyhow, let's get to education rights and Title IX. Title IX, I know, we all have sort of, in the broadest spoke of Title IX, we think that it's about sports, and in part it sure is, but it's a lot of things. So in general, it prohibited sex-based discrimination in any school or education program that receives federal funding. So this opened doors for women across the board in both academics and sports. So for athletics, it says that schools must give equal opportunities to all genders. It doesn't mean exactly the same number of teams, but it does mean fair access to resources, scholarships, facilities, and just overall athletic support. So that was a huge opportunity for women to get into school based on athletics. Massive. The big one, a big one, I should say, not the big one, but I like this subject. Sexual harassment and assault, because so much happens at school, at the school level. Title IX requires schools to have processes for presenting and responding to sexual misconduct, including harassment, assault, and retaliation. Schools that ignore or mishandle reports can be held accountable. This one is tricky, so hard to uphold, generally, as I've said before, especially in the school environment, things go unreported because of a variety of reasons, social repercussions, victim blaming, shaming, etc. It's always, 99% of the time, somebody who has sexually assaulted you, and it's super hard to prove. One thing that I did appreciate when I was touring my daughter at colleges when we were doing that whole thing is there are these blue light things that are on pretty much, I would hope to say all campuses, but on all the campuses we saw, where you could hit a button if you feel unsafe, if you feel like you're being followed, and there is campus security that is out and about. You have access to that along your path, along the different routes. So that was a great thing, and I imagine that was part of Title IX. Admissions and scholarships. Schools cannot use sex as a reason to deny someone admission, except if you're a single-sex institution, or to distribute scholarships unfairly. That's a huge one. STEM programs and more. If a school systematically discourages or disadvantages women in programs like engineering or science, That's Title IX issue, and there can be trouble. That was that, and it was, I'm just gonna remind you, 1972, so 53 years ago, okay? Not long ago. That's my lifetime. It's my lifetime. Jury duty. In 1975, again, a Supreme Court ruling that women could no longer be excluded from jury duty because we were excluded from jury duty. We weren't granted a seat to do our civic duty until the mid 70s. Pregnancy discrimination, 1978. This is 47 years ago. Before this, companies could legally fire a woman for being pregnant or refuse to hire her. So this act banned that, at least on paper. Now, VAWA, which is the Violence Against Women Act, this is something that came to be in just 1994. I'm pausing for a minute. 1994, 31 years ago. It finally put federal resources behind prosecuting sexual assault and domestic violence and protecting survivors. And since then, it's been renewed and expanded several times. It is so important because we are so unprotected by the legal system, the judicial system. We just are. We just are. And it is so important that that particular entity be preserved, enhanced, supported. That's a big one. So where we are now, right? We see that all of this hard work from the brave, fearless advocacy done by beautiful, strong women, with starting with suffragettes into the Gloria Steinem era and many, many more around there. They accomplished all of these things for us that only took place 30 to 50 years ago. A credit card, a bank account. And you know what? We all, of course, in my generation and those younger than I, we just all take it for granted. We think that it's like normal, that it's always been like that. It hasn't always been like that. It's only been 30 years that we've been like sort of kind of protected by VAWA, and 50 years since we were able to get a credit card or like go to a doctor without a man's signature. So all of this stuff is new and fragile. There's fragility in newness. There's fragility in things that took a long time to pass because people want to take it away. You know, people want to take it away. And you can see what's going on now, right? So right now, what's happening is, and it's, you know, it's like not to be critical, right? Because it's easy to be sort of like lulled into normalcy, thinking everything is normal. And frankly, we didn't have to fight. My generation didn't have to fight. Certainly, of course, I felt it all in my work environments. And, you know, I've always felt it, you know, being a woman is, you know, like I have felt it. And when I went to social work school, there was an exercise that was done in the beginning of school, sort of like a get to know you thing. And, you know, because I've always done work with women in sort of the domestic violence, sexual assault world, relationship trauma stuff, housing, etc., that's just like on my mind. And then, of course, always being a working woman, you know, I pay my way. I've always paid my way for everything. I don't, you know, I was not given money. Nobody paid for anything for me. I've always done it you know, I've always been supported myself, and it's hard. You know, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's hard, and to navigate that. And so when they asked, we went around the room and we had to say, you know, what are not, I don't want to say trauma, but you know, what was the burden we had to bear? And there was a lot, believe me, you know, everything from racism to, yeah, I mean, it was all of it. You know, in social work, you have a variety of wonderful humans who are there because of, you know, who they are, their life experiences. There are a lot of, you know, there were people transitioning. There was obviously a, you know, representation in the LGBTQ community, you know, certainly, you know, people of all ages, races, et cetera. It was an amazing environment of richness, you know, human richness. And a lot of the burdens that people bore were heavy, you know, and there's abuse, there's racism, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, I'm like, yeah, I am a woman, you know, living in a man's world, and I support myself, and I'm constantly, you know, have to find strength and resilience in my own self to get along and succeed. That was, but there were other things. That I would say is the thing. So what's happening now, I think it's important that we just take a look at, because I'm sure you guys, you gals, are having conversations with your friends right now because of all the things we see happening. And the thing about erosion, erosion happens slowly, quietly, without a lot of fanfare. Things just get chipped away until they're changed. And you're like, wait, what? I don't even know what's happening. So it's just stuff, again, to be aware of. So, for example, January 2025, the government ended federal funding of abortion. Gone, over. Project 2025 seeks to ban abortion pills and procedures around abortion nationwide. It restricts access to birth control, IVF, and emergency contraception. It strips privacy of patients and doctors. It's gone, and it criminalizes both providers and patients. Criminalizes providers and patients. The Supreme Court ruled that states can remove Planned Parenthood from Medicaid. So, abortion stuff aside, Planned Parenthood, provided services to people who couldn't afford it, which is a huge deal. 12 states have banned abortion with no rape or incest exemptions. No exemptions. Beyond the 12 total bans, 28 states enforce significant restrictions, often based on gestational age, adding up to approximately 41 states with some form of abortion ban or tight limits. There are 9 states plus DC, Washington, D.C., that currently allow abortions. There's something called, just again, something to be aware of, something called the SAVE Act, and it introduces strict in-person proof of citizenship requirements, passport or birth certificate, every time someone re-registers or updates their voting registration. Totally get it. Like, I get that. Totally makes sense, right? You should show who you are. The problem for us is that it impacts 69 million women, particularly those who change their names through marriage. It just becomes super complicated. It can be complicated. So the call out by some voting rights groups, League of Women Voters, who fought, these are the followers of the suffragette movement who have gone on to, really make sure that this stays intact for us, have sued it, calling it a Trojan horse attack on American women's voting rights. It's just, again, just something to be aware of. Just that's all. Just something to be aware of. The 2025 executive order aims to overhaul elections under the guise of security. Just be aware. Critics, including the ACLU and Brennan Center, warn that it could pave the way for restrictions that disproportionately hurt women, people of color, and the elderly. And lastly, there are proposed budget cuts and consolidation for VAWA, which is only 30 years old. The administration's 2026 budget plan seeks to cut VAWA funding by 30%. It also proposes to merge the Office of Violence Against Women, OVW, into the broader Office of Justice Programs, so diluting the focus, so not having a dedicated Office of Violence Against Women when we know how massive that issue is, merging it with just the Justice Department. So that's a little scary. It's a lack of balance in the government, and it's scary. So the recent changes that have been made have done the following. It is degrading / eroding the checks and balances. The agencies, the civil service, the watchdogs designed to limit executive overreach are being brought under direct political control. The implications are systemic. Future administrations, regardless of party, may find it easier to reshape the government from the top down, as opposed to bottom up, which is how we are set up. The push is structural, it's not symbolic. It's reshaping how power is organized, and it's exercised within the federal government. I say all of this just to get us thinking and talking. That's it. It's to get us thinking and talking, because the bottom line is, the only way that we can ensure our voice and our rights is that they're not like taken away from us, like stripped away, quietly taken away from us, one at a time. We need more women in power. We just do. At every level, we need more women in power, starting at the local level, because that's where we're totally underrepresented. And that's probably the easiest way for all of us to get involved, is our local level. So the only way, and we all know this, but we're busy and we're doing our things, and it's like a big commitment to take on, to say, okay, I'm going to go into public service. But the only way protections will be in place for us, and the equality that we deserve in every way, the only way that's going to be achieved is by law. By law. Nothing else matters. Even though protesting is super important, getting out there and having a voice is so important, the only way we will be protected is by law. And they're eroding. And the only way to have law implemented is to have people in power lobbying for us. And that's us. That's us. So thus, we need more smart, engaged women involved to help protect us and to drive us forward as equal partners. I think about this all the time. So, our next steps really for all of us alone, on our own, is to reflect. Just reflect. Think about the history. Think about that period of time from the 70s onward when things started happening for us, not a long time ago. Think about that and think about how you can get involved. Talk to your friends. Talk to your friends and see how they're feeling. You probably already are, I'm sure. See how they're feeling and, see what the inroads are. Look at your local councils. Look at, state stuff. Look at where there are things where you can get involved and think about how you can carve out time and energy and sort of drive to pick up this. I don't want to call it a fight because that feels aggressive, but it's a fight. And we got to have the energy and the stamina and the community to do it together because we are a massive force. Let's go back to the buying power that we have, the spending power that we have. $5 to $15 trillion are spent by us. 85% of everything is spent by women. We need to be controlling more. That's what we need. So this is how to do it. It's the only way. Food for thought. Thank you for being here. And let's keep talking about it. Keep me posted. Let me know. You can DM me. Let me know how it's going. Would really love that because that might be helpful to other people if we can share ideas of ways that we're all going about it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Inside the Wellspace. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.